So today is primary day in Michigan. We all know what the outcome's going to be. Super Tuesday is a few days away, 1 week away to be exact. But we sit here and we wonder, what is Nikki Haley's future? Well, our friend, Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business Network, has been writing about this the last couple of weeks and wondering what Nikki Haley's future is. We know that her big donors, one of them included the Koch brothers, of course, based out of here in Kansas, and they're out. So who's left for Nikki Haley, Charlie? Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Anytime. Less and less people. I mean, listen, Cliff Asness is a big financier. He's allegedly still with her. Ken Langone, another Home Depot founder, allegedly still there. I think Stan Druckenmiller, as of now, still there. But I think, it's over. And I think after Super Tuesday, she's going to have to drop out because the money will run out at that point. But they're just not going to keep throwing good money at bad and risk, a campaign that essentially elects Joe Biden if she stays in it to the convention. So that's the betting. One ominous sign for her in terms of money is that, from what I understand, those are like the sort of the headline names that you hear of. There's a lot of people underneath that, and that money is now being shifted away from her directly and going to Senate and House candidates, where they think because Republicans want to win the House and Senate, not just the presidency.
Yeah.
And if you don't win, if Trump doesn't win, you need it be divided government is the next best solution. So the money is drying up. Listen, I don't report this because I dislike her. I told this to Neil Cavuto the other day, my good friend, because he was saying, listen, it hasn't the race isn't over. When I wrote the column, I think I wrote that column 3 weeks ago or so, and I said in the New York Post, and I said, I said I'm not saying this because I dislike her. You dollars to donuts, my politics might align more with her than Donald Trump's. But, I'm a reporter, and the reality is there is zero chance she's going to be the nominee at this point.
So,
unless Trump has a heart attack, God forbid, or something like that.
Yeah. Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business, joining us. So the money folks, the Ken Langones of Home Depot, who have always, donated to or oftentimes donated to Republicans and Republican causes, are they going to go in, assuming it's Trump Biden, are they going to come home to Trump, or are they going to look at this no-labels third-party thing seriously?
I don't think so. I think they will come home to Trump, or at least come home to Republicans. They may not give to Trump. They may direct all their spending, which is, I think, where it's going, to these House and Senate candidates. At least that's what I'm hearing right now. I mean, it could change. This is a dynamic situation. But, listen, I think Donald just rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Let's be honest here. He made some crazy remarks the other day at some black conservative gathering, and I don't even want to say it because it'll get me in trouble if I even repeat what he said. But it's hard to keep putting the genie back in the bottle with that guy, and I think people have just had enough, particularly after January 6th. So, the rank and file still loves him. More power to him. He's going to win. He's going to win the nomination. It's obvious as of this point, unless something dramatic happens. Obviously, I don't know if he can get their money. I don't know if he needs their money, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well,
this is a whole other level. With Donald Trump, he generates his own publicity. He's running against the guy that is, let's face it, one of the worst presidents we've had. Maybe even worse than Jimmy Carter, because at least Jimmy Carter was sentient.
Well, I was going to say, so they're willing to basically just say, listen, and the things you bring up about Trump, I mean, listen, I totally get it, but they're essentially willing to say, we'll risk 4 more years of a president who literally doesn't know where he is a lot of the time, because Trump, admittedly, can be a bit of a knucklehead at times himself.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a dynamic situation. Yeah. And by the way, are they willing to risk, not just electing Joe Biden, but electing Kamala Harris?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be, a talking point very soon.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Um, but the alternative sometimes is toxic in different ways, and I don't need to go through it all.
Yeah.
But if you were going to say, would we take the 4 years of Trump versus the 4 years of Biden? I think most Republicans, and probably most independents, would say, I'd rather have 4 years of Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's. If you think about all the crazy stuff he said, what did he do that was so crazy? He kept us out of war. And I was talking about this with some people. They were like, oh, he's so nuts. Okay, well, let's see how nuts he was. He didn't really build a wall, which he should have. But, okay, take that out. It wasn't really a Muslim ban. I mean, that was kind of like, that was something, out of left field.
Yep.
He kept us out of wars, and he strategically eliminated our enemies like Soleimani.
Mm-hmm.
He closed down the border. He spent way too much money. That's bad. And I think that's one problem I have with him. He wasn't great on COVID, let's face it. I mean, he was talking about bleach and, hydroxychloroquine and all this crazy stuff. He allowed Anthony Fauci to run, control the sort of narrative long too much. But if you net it out, it's much better than this crap show. I mean, let's face it, that's what it is.
Well, you're right. I mean, that's indisputable at this point. So what then... the markets. I mean, listen, I never liked when Trump would say, hey, the market's doing great, thank me, because now Biden's doing it, and the markets are doing great, Charlie. But one, Main Street's still hurting. Main Street is not the markets. And then part two of that also is the markets are doing great because, big tech and the Magnificent Seven and AI are doing great. But that's got nothing to do with Joe Biden and his policies. So how does Wall Street square with what's going on Main Street and what we're seeing here over the last few months, which is record numbers for the stock market?
Well, I mean, listen, there's two economies, right? There's the stock market. By the way, big businesses are doing okay. I mean, there's still a lot of money sloshing around and liquidity from the past. Average people don't feel that great. And I think that's a problem for the president. There's essentially two economies here. I mean, you've kind of nailed it. I will say this, that the business community probably net likes Trump's policies better than Biden's. And not because of the trade stuff. That's a negative. Business would say, tariffs and all that is a tax, and it is. Americans might be paying more for goods because he wants to enact all these tariffs. And by the way, he has to get it through Congress. It's not that easy. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But he's, listen, I was talking to a former media CEO still in the business, and we were talking about how all these deals need to get done in the media. I mean, Paramount needs to sell itself, right? I mean, this once big sort of massive media conglomerate created by Sumner Redstone, now run by his daughter Sherry, is like a shell of itself. I mean, if you look at its market cap, it used to be like this huge company, a $50 billion company. Its market cap's around $7 billion right now. It needs to sell itself. But the Biden administration doesn't like mergers. So it's stopping all these sort of natural things. I mean, mergers, by the way, mergers don't always work out, right? A lot of times they don't. But they create at least some sort of pricing mechanism for assets.
Yeah.
The Biden administration is not allowing that natural pricing mechanism to go on. And, they're stopping all these mergers, particularly in media, which really needs to merge. I mean, Disney needs to sell parts of itself, maybe all of itself.
That's so true.
Discovery needs to sell itself to Amazon. They're afraid of making Amazon or Apple too bigger because they get concentration power. But who cares? I mean, at some point, because of tech, we can keep an AI now. We keep building better mousetraps going forward. Apple will be disintermediated if it uses its size to price out average people. Okay, that's what's going to happen because we have alternative venues to get information. I mean, trust me, they don't see it this way. They see every merger leading to layoffs, and they have no idea about creative destruction. They've come into our offices to explain it, so I know what they're thinking. But I was talking to this media guy who was a traditional liberal who agrees with me, and he's not going to vote for Biden because of that.
Wow. All right,
and I think that's kind of one of the issues that even liberal business people are waking up to that this administration is far too leftist.
And you reported this here in the last minute, Charlie. Catherine Herridge, formerly a colleague of yours, laid off by CBS News, owned by Paramount. Could that have been tied to her connection with what she was investigating around Joe and Hunter Biden, as Paramount, of course, as you noted, is trying to basically unload itself, and this may help them with the Biden administration allowing themselves to merge and basically get bought by getting rid of Catherine Herridge, who's been reporting on Joe and Hunter Biden?
Well, I raised the issue. I think that's my job to raise it. Did I prove it? No. It's bouncing around the ether.
Yeah.
I gave everybody a chance to talk me out of it, and they didn't. Mm-hmm. Other than to say it's all bullshit. But that was kind of like what they were saying off the record. And I think listen, I laid it out in a sort of way that, it was inconclusive, but I think it's worthy to talk about because there is precedent for this. Have you ever seen the movie The Insider with Russell Crowe?
I've not seen it.
Yeah, but it's a great movie. Russell Crowe plays Jeffrey Wigan, a guy that worked inside Brown and Williamson. And he comes to 60 Minutes with this great story about how Brown and Williamson was lying about nicotine back in the day when all those CEOs said that cigarettes aren't addictive or cause cancer or whatever, and he had the evidence. CBS did the story, taped it, and then because they were worried about a lawsuit as CBS was selling itself to Westinghouse back in 2005, they killed the story initially. Now it leaked out and it became a huge, journalism scandal. It's a great movie, by the way. You should watch it. But so there is precedent for worried about how corporate events, how news impacts corporate events. And I brought that up in the column as well.
Wow. Well, we'll check it out. Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business, doing great work. Thanks for joining us here back in Kansas City, Charlie. We always appreciate your time.
Anytime, Pete. Appreciate it.
You bet. Charlie Gasparino on 95.7 FM KCMO.